We have an unidentified Zoom user on the line, on the phone. Please identify yourself.
Hi, Rhonda. This is Busy Collins. I apologize. I'm calling.
Oh. Hi, Busy. Thanks.
Thanks, Rhonda.
Good morning. This is Cheryl Barlow, District Director for Supervisor Judy Begay's office.
Hello, Cheryl.
Good morning.
We'll get started in just a couple minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks. Chair Shimoni, we do have all board members except Supervisor Vasquez at the moment.
Very good. Thank you so much.
I don't know if he's going to be attending because they're supposed to meet with Navajo Nation President Nez at 10 o'clock. And since the area that's the tunnel fire, that's part of his kind of, he's part of the Dooney Park Timberline Fernwood. He's part of that. So he might be busy with that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. It is his district, like you said, and so he might not be able to join us. And if not, we have a quorum otherwise, correct?
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rhonda. Well, I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Hi, everybody. This is Wednesday, April 20th, Mountain Line board meeting. And I'd like to let the public know that the board of directors may recess into executive session for any legal advice if we so choose to. With that, can we have roll call, please?
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Adam Shimoni.
Present.
Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez, excused. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet.
Present.
Thank you. NAU, Josh Mayer.
Present.
Thank you. CCC, Tony Williams.
Present.
Thank you. We have members of staff in the training room and on Zoom. And we also have several guests. We have our attorney, Chris Beecher.
Good morning, everybody.
We have from CCC, we have President Smith, Cheyenne Grapiak, and Mandy Metzger, and I believe Nat White did also join. And that's for our first presentation. And we also have Dave Wessel from Metro Plan for our second presentation. Other guests we have on the line are Barney Helmick from the city, Cheryl Barlow from Coconino County, and Linda Curley from Coconino County. Oh, and Torsten Schnood, I believe that's how you pronounce it, with HDR regarding the Caspar master plan item that will be presented later, in case you have any questions. And I will turn it back to you, Chair Shimoni. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda, and welcome everybody. Good morning. You know, I feel like I'd like to just acknowledge the struggles that our community is facing recently with the tunnel fire. I know that there have been employees and I'm sure people in each of our networks who are impacted by this, and our hearts go out to them and the struggles that they're facing today and yesterday. And yeah. So we're down to item 3 of our agenda, which is our safety minute with Sam Short, our safety manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jim Wagner, Operations Director, filling in for Sam today. And today's topic is the April Safety Minute is Ready, Set, Go. As you know, fire season in Northern Arizona is already here. And Ready, Set, Go is a nationwide program adopted by the 15 Arizona County Sheriff Departments that educate residents about being proactive, about proactive measures to take before an emergency and actions to follow when communities are threatened. The following are the all hazard evacuation steps for Ready, Set, Go. Ready means you are prepared for an emergency to arise. You have registered with your local emergency alert system, prepared an evacuation plan, and have an emergency go kit prepared and ready to take with you. You should always be in the ready mode. Set means there is significant danger in your area and you should be ready to leave the area at any time. You should also consider voluntarily relocating to a shelter or with family and friends outside the affected area. Prepare your emergency go kit to leave now. Go means evacuate the affected area immediately. The danger in your area is imminent and life-threatening. Coconino County does have a system in place to quickly notify an affected area of an emergency by sending out a voice or text message. For more information on the Ready, Set, Go, or to sign up for the emergency notifications in Coconino County, please contact Safety Manager Sam Short for link or information. Thank you and welcome to the April Mountain Line Board meeting.
Jim, thank you for that.
Thank you, sir.
We are down to agenda item number 4, which is our approval of our 3/23/2022 minutes. Directors, any comments about those minutes? And if not, a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion to approve by Vice Chair Williams and a second by Director Mayer. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same notion. That motion carries. Thank you very much. That brings us down to item number 5, which is the Proposition 438 presentation.
Thank you so much for having us. This is Colleen. Cheyenne is going to give a shortened presentation today. We know you have a very busy agenda. So Cheyenne, if you would move through it very quickly so that we can give Mandy and Nat time to talk within the 10 minutes. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay. Do you see the slideshow or is it in the presenter view right now?
We do. I think we do see it. I'm not sure if it's, I think we see your notes as well. I'm not sure if it's in the right setting.
Is it full screen now?
Yes, it is. Thank
Okay.
you. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Cheyenne Grabiak. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator here at Coconino Community College. I'm here to share with you all about Proposition 438. This is a special election for Coconino Community College, which will be held on May 17th. It will be both in-person voting and voting by mail. And if you do vote by mail, you should be receiving a ballot sometime in the next week or so. And so Proposition 438, this is our going to be on the ballot on May 17th. And this is our request for voter approval to reset our primary property tax rate. If you look at this chart on the bottom, this is a comparison of the other community college districts and their primary property tax rates. You can see Coconino here on the far left. We have the lowest primary property tax rate. Our rate right now is at about 44 cents. And we are requesting voter approval to reset our rate to about 74 cents. We would still be the lowest property taxes in the state. The next lowest is Maricopa County. Theirs is about $1.11. So even though we would still be the lowest, if this is approved by the voters, it would cut our disparity from about 60% to about 30%. And the reason that the rate was set so low at 44 cents when the college first opened 30 years ago, the college was set to be a college without walls, and we had expected to serve about 500 to 1,000 students. We now have 3 campuses, 2 here in Flagstaff, campus in Page as well. And we serve about 3,000 students each semester now. So we've grown significantly since the college was first opened 30 years ago. And so our tax rate right now is outdated 30 years, and we've grown much more than was expected when the college was first opened. And as a community college, we have 3 main sources of revenue. That is our primary property taxes, our student tuition and fees, and state support. And I'm sure, as a lot of you know, state support for community colleges and education have been cut significantly in the past few years. And as a community college right now, we have the highest student tuition and fees in the state. And again, the lowest primary property tax rate. This chart on the right shows the 3 smallest Northern Arizona schools and how we compare to each other based on our revenue. So the smallest school is Northland Pioneer. Their total revenue is about almost $40 million per year. Coconino Community College is the second smallest. Currently our revenue is at about 26 million. And then the third smallest is Mojave Community College, and they're at about $46.5 million per year. So if this reset is approved by the voters, we would see about a $6 million increase in revenue per year, and that would bring us up to about 32.3 million. We would still be the lowest funded, but this increase in funding would help us to offer some of the same opportunities as the other community college districts in the state. So some of you might be asking, what is this going to cost me? So the primary property tax is assessed for every $100 of assessed limited property value. If you are a property owner here in Coconino County, you would have received a letter from the county assessor's office at the beginning of the year that would let you know what your limited property value of your home is. And the assessed limited property value is 10% of that limited property value. So for most people living in Coconino County, if this is approved by the voters, the monthly difference in your property taxes would be between about $5 to $10 difference. So about 1 or 2 coffees every month. If this is approved by the voters, the college will leverage the increase in funding to meet community workforce and training needs, such as continuing to expand our career and technical education programs, developing new programs to support veterans, training for civilian jobs, expanding our scholarship programs, and enhancing our educational services throughout the county, including the communities of Page, Tuba City, and Williams. These are some of the programs that we offer and that could be expanded. For the sake of time, I won't go through all of them, but I would like you all to know these are programs that the college has implemented and has begun to offer based on what our community has told us are the needs for the workforce here in Coconino County. If this primary property tax reset is approved by the voters, we'll be able to expand some of the ongoing programs. We've been lucky enough to receive some one-time funding to start some of these programs here at Coconino Community College. And with this increase in funding, we'd be able to plan farther ahead into the future for these programs, being able to start new programs that are requested by us from the community. And then the ongoing programs and being able to expand those and offering it to more students here throughout the county. If you do have any questions, you can reach out to myself or to President Smith. And I'd now like to give the rest of the time to Nat and Mandy to share what they've been doing.
Mandy, would you like me to go first? Since she's muted, I will go first. So thanks for your time. I'm on the governing board and I'm speaking for myself as one of the members of the governing board. So I'm not speaking for the governing board, but basically we've got a budget issue, as simple as that. And as Cheyenne said, we have 3 sources of funding: student fees, which are now the highest, state support, which is constantly decreasing. And the reason our student fees are the highest is trying to balance off the state support. And property taxes. And our property taxes are our only dependable funding source. It's what we can use to plan ahead. The other 2 sources of funding we hope for, but we can't really have any control over that. So we are at a point, because we are the lowest in the state and because we're a growing community college, that this is not sustainable. We just would have to continue to cut programs rather than increase programs to meet the needs of the college. A second point I'd like to make out, and for you folks that are more knowledgeable in this, you would understand. Normally, you cannot ask voters to increase their property taxes by state law. But after a lot of work over a number of years, the legislators allowed us a certain small window to go to the Coconino County voters for an increase or reset of the property tax, the 30-year-old property tax. And this was special legislation that really allowed only Coconino Community College to do this. There's a limited time or window in which we can do it. They set the time to be May, a special election. That answers why we're doing it in May. And the maximum amount we could increase this would be to double it. And what we're doing, and the governing board decided to do, is it would be nice to double it, but that might not be a good slogan for our proposition. So we've increased it to 70%, which will go a long ways to making our planning and budgeting more consistent, more stable, and more able to meet the needs. So that's the why now and why in May. And we made this decision back in the fall before the economic environment, our fires, all of this we could predict. So the die is cast, and not only do we have to go forward, we really need to get this passed. I took my tax.
Give them a call.
I took my tax notice that we all got in February, I think, and the market value on this tax thing was $550,000. So I went through the calculations. So this is not an estimate. So my tax would increase annually by $100, which is about a little less than $9 a month. So that gives you an idea of what the change is. So I'd just like to say that, you know, if we as a community believe CCC provides a needed and valuable service, then shouldn't we financially support it at least a basic level, even if it's the lowest in the state? So that's what a vote yes for Proposition 438 will do. It'll take a big step in that direction of giving us a good basic level of support from the taxpayers of Coconino Community College. So thank you very much, Mandy.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair Shimoni and members of the board for letting us be here today. I have a very simple task, but before I ask, I just want to express my appreciation for all the work you're doing related to the tunnel fire, well, day in and day out, but certainly the tunnel fire. I don't think there's anything more frightening actually than fire and what it can do. And I know that oddly enough, since we're speaking today, is that many of the first responders on that fire or related to the fire were trained at Coconino Community College. So I'm here today representing the PAC, Thriving CCC PAC, the Political Action Committee. Community colleges go deep into my history and deep into my passion. And, you know, I'm here to ask you to please vote for Proposition 438. I think it's a matter of the health of our community, certainly economically and in other ways, great diverse educational opportunity, and many of our young people, and even through the ages, choose this type of education to better their lives and most importantly, maybe stay in our community. So with that, if you would like more information, you can also do the contacts that have been discussed, or you can go to yesforcoconino.com on the web. We certainly appreciate endorsements, funding, but just your support, your vote is most important. So with that, thank you so much. I'm sure any of us will answer questions if need be.
Very good. Thank you, Colleen, Cheyenne, Nat, and Mandy. We really appreciate your time and your presentation today. Directors, any comments or questions? And Vice Chair Williams, you don't have to hold back on this group.
Chairman Shimoni, I just want to recognize that I do have a bias in favor of CCC, and I just want to recognize my colleagues and members of the community that are supportive of the institution. I think their presentation today was very clear and concise and really draws the importance and value that community colleges give to our communities, and particularly the importance it gives to Coconino County. So I thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other comments or questions before we move on? Not hearing any. We really appreciate all that you do for the community and are excited about this upcoming election season. And we'll talk more offline about how I can be of assistance personally, because I definitely believe in the cause. So thank you all, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Thank you. All right, folks, that brings us down to item number 6, which is our regional transportation plan presentation with Dave Wessel from Metro Plan, who's the planning manager at Metro Plan. Dave, welcome. Thanks for being with
Good
us.
morning, Chair Shimoni. Thank you for having me today. Like my predecessor here, I'll be going fairly quickly because we know you have a lot to do. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, is everybody seeing the presentation?
We can. It's not full screen, but we can see it.
Okay, how about now?
Perfect.
Great. So good morning. My name is David Wessel. I am the planning manager for Metro Plan. We are the regional transportation planning body. We serve an area the same as the Mountain Line service area. So I won't go into that. We are in the middle of producing our required stride forward regional transportation plan. We do this every 5 years, and it's a 20 to 25 year outlook. We're going to 2045. We'll be putting together a program of projects, looking at relationships between the economy and the environment, looking to integrate multiple plans, including Mountain Line's Flagstaff in Motion plan, and hoping to set up a strong lead in to the regional plan, which again has the same boundaries that we do. My purpose here today, not only to introduce you to Stride Forward, but to give you a taste of the kind of public involvement and outreach that we're doing, the kind of input we're receiving, and how we're going to use it. So you're going to see a lot of slides on results from some surveys. And I really don't mean for you to digest that information. They are highlights, but just to understand that we are out there, we're doing our best, and to understand how we're going to use that. The issues that we're surveying on and looking to address focus on climate change and housing affordability. There is a carbon neutrality plan in effect, a strong policy there, and transportation contributes 40% of greenhouse gas emissions. So that's something we're taking very seriously as your regional transportation planning organization. We also know that a housing emergency has been declared, and that transportation, as you've heard from Mountain Line over many times over the years, can contribute to making housing more affordable by lowering the cost of transportation. But we also want to explore how housing how transportation through different modes and systems can support more affordable housing, not just lower the cost for transportation. Again, like Mountain Line and Flagstaff in Motion, we'll be doing an equity analysis. We'll be doing this for all modes, looking at how people can access key services like pharmacies, groceries, medical services, education, and parks. And we'll be doing that analysis against many of our Title VI communities, which are areas where minorities, disabilities, people with low income and others are concentrated, and making sure that there's equitable treatment for them through our transportation process or systems. In our analysis for 2045, we're looking at 2 scenarios with controlled total populations of roughly 120,000 for the region, with 65,000 jobs. One scenario or concept will be onward, which is staying the course. As you all know, in 2018, there were 3 propositions, only 2 passed, unfortunately. The 2 that did pass were the Lone Tree Overpass, 420, and the General Roads and Ped and Bike Proposition 419. Transit 421 did not pass, and those are the assumptions in a fiscally constrained environment that we need to address. We'll also be looking at the current land use plan, knowing that it's going to be amended here shortly. And the idea here is to look at how close we would come to meeting those goals, carbon neutrality and others, if we stay that course. We will then look at an upward condition, which is really looking to modify our transportation projects and programs and our land use to more fully or completely meet those carbon neutrality goals, as well as to look at the analysis for equity and housing and other goals. This is really an educational opportunity and an informational opportunity for policymakers, as I mentioned earlier, to set up the regional plan. So one of the things that we want to do with both of these concepts and our information back to you at the end of this Stride Forward process is to give you a good sense of what the public perception is, as well as how we consider public perception in developing the concepts. And that perception includes attitudes towards many strategies for vehicle miles travel reduction, or conservation, as we might call it now. And here's an example of some of the things that are available to us from our literature review. And you can see that's transit-oriented design, and on the far left, density, price parking, street connectivity. And if you glance across that, you'll see several transit-oriented strategies that we can employ. So regarding that public outreach, and here's where I'm going to start really picking up the pace, but we've had a random sample survey with 629 responses, 2 online surveys with close to 600 responses. We've been out in front of 20 organizations, had social media. We have our website. Encourage you to go to that website if you want to read more about these surveys and their results. And we'll be out in front, live in front of the public, starting this Saturday at Earth Day. And we'll be going out to the underserved population with some pop-up events, different communities. So again, how are we out there in the public with our surveys? What are we learning, and how are we going to use it? Some of it is going to be about messaging. So here we asked people, how do they rate it, the transportation system? How is it compared to other values? And what we're gleaning from this, transportation is a means to an end, not an end in and of itself, serving these other activities. So that's going to influence some of our messaging. We've asked people, because we know that land use is going to be important, we asked people about preferred community type and their attitudes towards smaller houses closer together that's served by a walkable community. And as we glean more about or learn more about these types of attitudes, we can shape our scenarios and those future land use concepts, but also use that as an analysis or evaluation filter, saying, well, they said they like this kind of community, but we're above or beyond or above or below what they're comfortable with, and we can let you know what those kind of perspectives are. We've asked about current and future travel preferences, and you can see here people are willing to shift, from the blue today to the red in the future. is this enough to meet carbon neutrality goals? How close can we get as we look at the analysis of those future conditions? We've asked people how they use their car. Again, this allows us to consider, are we meeting the needs by trying, through these future systems and land use patterns that allow them to get by with either shorter trips in their car or no car at all using other modes. We've asked them, how they perceive the use of their car across several, or use of their preferred modes across several measures. Interestingly enough, cars were not seen as rated as enjoyable. Walking and biking were. And so again, these are, how can we frame and present things? How can we evaluate them through different lenses other than simple mobility? We have some insight on who people are that would be willing to switch. This may be useful in, again, messaging. We're looking at satisfaction with the current transportation system and trying to understand who these people are, particularly those for whom it's not serving them well or not at all, which is of considerable concern. Looking at priorities, I'm going to just kind of skip through a number of these pretty quick. Climate change perspectives, because this is what we're after in terms of the carbon neutrality plan. And importantly, and I think this, the city's work has supported this as well. Most people, 75% overall, even 63% in the county, see the climate change is happening and something and it needs to be addressed. And about another 20% feel that it's happening, but little can be done. And so we're, feel good moving into this planning process, knowing that climate change is on people's minds. So we're trying to understand their satisfaction with current services. And so knowing what we know about current services, what can we do to move the needle on that? So we asked about the frequency of transit service and its proximity, the number of sidewalks and crosswalks, number of bike lanes and trails. And again, how do we devise future systems and how do they compare against these public attitudes? We asked about driving as a necessity and look to dig deeper in that in an online survey. And, why do you see it as a necessity? What are you using it for? And here we see trips are too far. We have multiple packages, multiple stops. So can we, again, develop land use and other transportation systems that help speak to those needs, that allow a shift in modes? We asked about safety. Many people perceive safe driving as safer than other modes, and asked, what is it about that? So fear of a bike crash, fear of concern about the weather. How do we design systems that speak to those needs? And as we look at trying to be equitable, I'll just raise this point because this is the kind of information we have. When we asked this risk of assault, you can see overall it was relatively low. And this is assault while you're walking or biking. For the very low income, less than $25,000 per year in a household, that number was 40%. So as we want to keep an eye to that, as maybe not at this very high level planning level, but as we get into project implementation, what are we doing to address security concerns? So we have asked a number of demographic questions in our random sample and online surveys. And so we can do a cross-tabulation evaluation for a number of groups, including whether people live in the city or the county. So as we look at attitudes towards changing community types, we asked about attitudes for different types of density. And you can see here, a pretty strong opposition. People would be much less likely to choose. We got some information on positive influences. Parks and transit would be positive influence to get people to change their living patterns. Similar to switching modes, this will help us in terms of designing projects and programs. And then we've asked similar questions in different ways. If everything's safe and convenient, which we use, it's kind of a similar to your preferred mode. Are we treating everything sufficiently? Similar to, where do we need to invest? We do unfortunately have a unique opportunity to do a revealed preference, where most of these questions are a stated preference. Some would consider them aspirational, but gas prices are up. What are people willing to do, or are they doing, not willing to do? And about half are not changing their travel decisions, maybe because they can't, but combining errands, going out less, working from home. So, how can we help facilitate even more of that? Some trade-off questions in terms of people willing to take more time in their drive in order to accommodate those who are not driving. A lot of support for slowing things down a little bit. We asked about transit service, maybe not the best worded question, but saw support for transit service monetarily for service to outlying areas. And you can see the change for city residents is about the same for county residents and those not willing to pay at all. So ask questions about attitudes towards housing. And that's, again, hopefully you're getting a sense of the types of questions we're asking and how we're going to use them. They are online at metroplanflg.org/strideforward. Here we are into May. We're going to wrap this up by October. And really over the summer, we're going to be doing those onward and upward scenarios, developing those, analyzing them and reporting on them. So a very fast run through, but hopefully you've got a good flavor of what we're doing and what we're up to. And if you have more questions, here's my contact information. So I thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Dave. That was a great presentation and very interesting to learn about your survey and all your efforts here. Directors, any comments or questions? Of course I have some comments. Surprise, surprise. This is great. Dave, I really appreciate the survey. I thought it was really interesting. And in the earlier slides, you talked about the current conditions versus, I think, future. And, climate definitely comes to mind. And I'm glad that we're talking about climate, especially with the fire. It's very real. And, we have a choice to drive, but we don't have a choice about climate, And so I'm glad that, that's becoming more and more part of the discussion. And I know that you're working closely with our city sustainability staff. But, I thought it was interesting in regards to the current conditions, what people are willing to consider in terms of mode shift, riding their bikes. But I thought your comment about the safety, I think, is extremely relevant because it's sketchy. I ride my bike almost every day and it is sketchy. It's very sketchy. And so, often I think about the future generations, the kids who aren't taking the survey. And I think that if we were to design better for their success in creating alternative modes, which I know you're all in favor for as well, I think we'll see a very different result here in our survey. And I think about things like NAU, and Director Mayer, you can speak to this better than I can, but we charge a ton of money on campus to park. And how many students do you see on campus with a car? Not very many. They're all packed into those buses at every stop, right? So cost, and you talked about cost, Dave, in regards to the price of gas, but I think we can design and change culture And it's just a matter of what, like you said, what does the policy setters and what do the leaders in the community want to set us up for? Do we want to set ourselves up for more driving and more induced demand and more lanes, or do we want to move people in a holistic, best system network we can in the nation, as our mission for MetroPlan is? And I do wonder how many of the 30% of Flagstaff doesn't have access to a car is participating in these types of surveys. I'm afraid probably not many of that 30%, given that it might be more low income at times. But I was glad to hear you talk about equity and that lower income concern of that population. So, and then land use, I thought that was a great point. I just really appreciate your entire presentation. And those were just some notes I took down as you were talking. And as you and I have talked about, with congestion today in the city of Flagstaff, I really want the larger community to really be brought along for the conversation about how do we deal with congestion and the ideas of induced demand. But other directors, any other comments or thoughts? The good news is that Mountain Line is the solution, right? If we can get people into buses and out of their cars and create walkable and other alternative modes, we really provide the solution, and NAU really provides a very clear example of that. But who else has something to add? Councilmember Sweet.
I raised my hand. Hi. Thank you for the presentation. I love all the data. And I guess my initial thoughts when I briefly look at it is, necessary driving too far speaks to me and a lot of the community members that I know, and driving for safety with weather. So in my mind, with Mountain Line, I just think for the multimodal transportation, these are great things to keep in mind for how to shift the narrative. And maybe riding your bike is too far, but taking a bus isn't too far. So I just thought that the presentation was great. It really helps me to narrow my focus onto what we can do for Mountain Line to get this going. So thank you.
Thank you.
More park and rides. Frequent services, it's all of the above, right? Any other comments for Dave?
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. All right, very good. So moving on to our consent agenda, item 7. Oh, I just lost my page. The MetroPlan and Mountain Line coordinated public transit human services transportation plan. With us, is Estella with us? Hi, Estella, welcome.
Hi, thank you, Chair Shimoni, members of the board. I do not have a formal presentation today since it is consent agenda, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Estella? Very good. All right, so staff recommends the Board of Directors adopt the MetroPlan and Mountain Line Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. Is there a motion to do so?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Director Mayor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Vice Chair beat you to it. So there's a motion by Director Mayor with a second by Vice Chair Williams. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? That motion carries. We are down to our discussion action items. Item number 8, which is our fiscal year 2023 capital budget. With Josh Doan, who is our Management Services Director. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time. Josh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Today, we're taking a quick look at our fiscal year 2023 capital budget. Rhonda, I guess you can move to the next slide. 2023 is looking to be an exciting year. Several of our capital investment projects are moving into their final and design construction phases. So the budget certainly reflects that. With that said, the capital budget comes in at about $55 million. I've provided the fiscal year 2022 budget and where we expect to end up for the current year. About half of the 55 million, about 26 million, has already been approved and budgeted for the current fiscal year. So it's actually being carried over. So about half of the 55 million is new budget, new spending. Of course, the largest piece of the budget is our downtown connection center. It's about 66% of the budget. We're happy to see the pieces coming together for that. I do want to note that the very top line is bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure improvements. You'll see that there is no expense for that in 2022. City Council just a couple of weeks ago approved an IGA for this to move forward. So that'll be moving forward in 2023. Mountain Line received the grant funding for this project and will be administering it, but the outcome of the projects will result in capital assets for the city. Other than that, I don't plan to speak extensively about any of these projects. I think you're familiar with most of them. Kate and the planning team regularly provide updates for most of them. And then at the May meeting, we'll be discussing the funding side of the budget, including capital, the entire budget. So if anyone has any questions about a specific line right now, that's all I really have.
Josh, thank you for that. Directors, any questions about the capital budget? Not seeing any. Josh, thank you. And I will always take a moment to thank Estella and the team for helping get us that grant at the city for the 5.5 million. The first last mile, that's tremendous. And I am so glad to see that move forward at the city. And so thank you.
Thanks.
That brings us down to item number 9 of our discussion items, which is our Casper Master Plan update. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time. Anne, who is our capital project manager, will be leading this discussion.
Thank you, Chair Shimoni, members of the board, Anne Dunno, capital project manager. HDR, our engineer, is on the line as well, Torsten Schmood. I'm going to run through the slides pretty quick, and then I'll leave the most of the time for the board for discussion. So next slide, please. So the goal of the master plan is to develop a long-term 20-year plan for Mountain Line facilities at Caspar. So to maximize for fleet storage and maintenance. So with the movement of the DCC to downtown, that frees up some capacity here at the Caspar headquarters. And so this project is looking to maximize that storage. Next slide, please. So with HDR, we developed 2 concepts. You'll see a concept A and a concept B. Concept A was focused on the 2 developed parcels that Mountain Line owns. I believe the board is aware that Mountain Line owns 3 parcels, the 2 developed parcels you see, and then the vacant land to the north. So concept A develops out our 2 lower parcels in 2 phases. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So phase 1, the most immediate priority that we identified during programming was for maintenance. Our current maintenance facility is undersized for not only the sizes of our articulated buses, they stick out of the front end, but also the scale of our fleet as we've grown over the years. So our current maintenance facility is down in the corner. That would actually stay and be repurposed, but we would essentially demo what we call Shop Zero, which is kind of the front half of that building. It's in blue. That would become a new 6-bay maintenance facility and a chassis wash. And the area in orange, which is the admin facility, that would remain for the near term. That would be level 1. And so next slide, please. Level 2, which would be both level 1 and level 2 would need to be constructed to develop the maintenance facility. As a mezzanine level, it would have HVAC and some storage, the ability to use like a crane. And there's some great feedback we got from the Public Works facility at the city that we toured. So it would very much mimic that style of much better working space for fleet staff, better lighting, better, just a safer space to be working in. Next slide, please. So level 3 of phase 1 is actually a employee parking garage, if you will, that would sit on top of the maintenance facility. And as we've talked more about this, we recognize that we could potentially look at parking as a future phase. It doesn't necessarily have to be triggered with the maintenance facility. Next slide, please. So phase 2 of Concept A actually builds storage. So this could be on a longer timeline. The phase 1 maintenance is more of an immediate 2 to 5 year need for construction. We're looking out longer term for phase 2 for the storage. And HDR was, I give them great kudos. They were able to develop essentially a 27 bus storage facility, essentially a similar size to the one we have, that would bring up our total storage for the 20-year need. I believe we estimated 54 buses total. Next slide. So also with phase 2, we would have above the storage, we would have some office space on top because there are office staff that would remain at Caspar, I should say operations staff that have office needs. So that's that functionality would be developed over the top of the storage. And the next slide, please, Rhonda. And then there would be also parking on top of the bus storage. And this again would cover that long-term projection on the number of employees in operations over the next 20 years. So next slide, Rhonda. So as you can kind of tell, HDR was able to develop a very kind of elegant, compact facility that could be developed in phases. And with the circulation that, at least at this initial concept, that we would have, circulation improved, be able to move around, move in maintenance, move over to our bus wash, and then store the buses at night. Next slide, please. So Concept C, staff were tasked to look at the vacant land for transit use and see what kind of uses, what kind of transit use we could get to fit on the vacant land. And we did get feedback, very initial feedback from the city on some constraints about slope and setbacks to develop a transit use function on that property. City planning advised that our 2 current lower parcels are zoned highway commercial in order to develop Concept C, which is essentially a bus storage and or maintenance facility up at that property. We would actually be developing a tunnel under a future Linda Vista. And then it would kind of be sort of subsurface, which then also, if you go to the next slide, Rhonda, also allows the opportunity for the either employee parking and or other uses on top. So what you could see is Concept C is sort of would supplant the phase 2 from Concept A, if that makes sense. And we did this really to look to like what would we need to do to use that property for transit uses. The city did advise that because it would require rezoning. We would actually have to zone that property. Currently is zoned high density residential. It would need to be rezoned. And we would have a rezoning process and obviously a CUP involved as well, a conditional use permit. So, with that, we were looking at those challenges. One of the, during our staff workshop, we also did identify just as an opportunity for a strategy that Mountain Line could use is to do a lot line revision on that vacant land. So right now, if you look down in that lower right slide, portion of the slide, you'll see that blue line. The green vacant property actually straddles where the future Linda Vista would cross over onto the blue parcel, and we would propose doing a lot line revision. That would be whether or not we would consider developing it for transit or other uses. But that would be just helpful from the ability to have that property tie all the way to Caspar from Linda Vista in terms of one parcel. Next slide, please, Rhonda. So a few of the takeaways. So we had a staff workshop, and high level, the staff was very supportive of Concept A. It really did meet all of our long-term programming needs. We did recognize there are some city planning steps. We would need a conditional use permit, which is what we did when we did Shop 3 in order to do Concept A, but there would be no rezoning required. We recognize there would be some challenges with Concept A with parking and drainage. And I mean, we would be using every square inch of those properties. Very high level costs are showing that phase 1, the maintenance would be around 18 million. Construction, phase 2, again, these are escalated costs out 10 years. Phase 2 storage would be about 32 million. And those costs don't include design and other soft costs. And then Concept A, looking at it from a programming standpoint, it's very challenging. It kind of splits our operations. There's certainly a lot of level of potential inefficiency to have separated, operations and storage over here. That's one of the reasons the staff really liked the design of Concept A. Everything was together with the maintenance and the storage. Just really reduces the staff time and just running around and inefficiencies. Obviously, it requires some of the rezoning, and with the rezoning, I should mention, it would require that Linda Vista is constructed in coordination with the city. There are obviously very big technical challenges with a tunnel and dealing with utilities, which obviously increases risk and cost for Concept C. Very high level costs for Concept C are around 42 million. And again, that would be instead of the 32 million under phase 2 under Concept A. And then really staff looked at Concept C with, wanting to seek feedback from the board if there's interest in Mountain Line exploring any public-private partnership opportunities for that vacant land. And, kind of looking at that, because some of the ideas that staff were, thinking are if the land could be used either as a P3 or if it was sold off, so that could be used as local match for a future phase 2. So next slide, please. And so really the next steps was obviously to hear from the board today on feedback on our concepts, feedback about a P3 exploration and or potential disposition of the property, and feedback if you'd like us to pursue the lot modification. And really, obviously we'll be seeking grant opportunities for any concepts. We're looking at Concept A right now as a possible grant opportunity for phase 1. And with that, I would just open it up for board discussion.
And thank you for that great presentation and exciting to learn about this. Directors, jump on in. What are your thoughts? I think the plan is good. In terms of parcel C, an idea that I like to throw out there that is always in the back of my mind is the idea of starter homes and thinking about Habitat for Humanity and what they're doing with their starter home project, which is kind of a land trust model. And I know that Director Mayer and President Cruz are very familiar with this. My understanding is that's not moving forward, Director Mayor, but I'd love for you to jump in on that if I'm wrong. But I'm always just thinking about workforce housing and, you know, the need for housing for our employees in the community. So maybe this is an opportunity. I don't know, just throwing that out there. What other comments do folks have? Director Sweet.
I was just going to echo what you're saying. I mean, it doesn't hurt to keep exploring the P3, and I love the starter home idea. I think that all developments should have starter homes at this point. We need it. So I say keep investigating and moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair, any thoughts? Nope.
I don't have any comments today. Thanks.
No worries. And Director Mayor, last but not least, are you with us?
I am, and none from me, thank you.
Okay. And do you have any thoughts about what it might like what sprinkling in some starter homes might be like here, or if that's a thought at all?
Thank you for, yes, thanks for that question. Our team, I mean, high level, of course, we've had some similar ideas. You know, definitely we are also in tune with some of the community conversations around housing and starter homes. So I think the guidance that I would maybe would like a little more feedback on is the exploration of a P3. Is there a desired direction to still endeavor to combine it with the transit? I will say there are, or do you want us to really just focus more on concept A and look at exploring more of a housing type P3? What is the direction for the P3 exploration? What would you like to see? What would help the board further discuss this? What would you like to see from us for a housing P3?
And remind me what concept, you know, I'll throw, remind me really quick what concept A is.
So concept A, if you go back, Rhonda, and I know I'll try to, only a couple minutes. Concept A enables us to get the bus storage and maintenance all on our developed properties. It's, yeah, basically, keep going, Rhonda, back up, sorry. Keep going, Rhonda. Yeah. Right there is perfect. So envision, basically we can get all of our bus storage and maintenance on that parcel between the different levels and the things that I walked through. The point of concept C to look at transit was just to see if we could fit what could fit, but you can see that it only gets us some storage and it's very much separated, and we would still need maintenance work done. And so and obviously there's a lot of complications with the tunnel and a whole host of things. And the property is zoned high density residential. And any developer, whether it's Mountain Line or another developer, would be able to develop by right, and would actually not have to build Linda Vista. They would be required to leave space for a future Linda Vista and just make sure their development is such that when the city would come through in the future, that everything would, you know, coordinate and work together. So I just wanted to share that little bit of extra piece of information that we did get from the city about developing the vacant land.
The concept A is the easiest, most infill dense approach.
Yes.
Without just, you know, sprawling out and the additional encumbrances of the streets, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Let's jump over to Heather.
Thanks for that. And I just want to make sure you stay aware of a couple of things. So can you go to the parcel boundary slide? Because I want to point out just a couple of things for board members that maybe weren't here when we originally bought this. So if you'll focus in, I know not Rhonda, but board members on the lot line revision. So if you see the purple shaded area, that's our existing property, above that dotted line that goes across that property is what we already own and quote is part of our occupied parcel. But it is an area of land that at the time we were developing, we set aside, if you will, programmatically, because we knew there was a desire for Linda Vista to come all the way through. So one challenge that we have as we look at all of these parcels and maybe realigning parcels and keeping or selling is that the existing parcels were purchased with federal funds. So at some point in the future, when that land is dedicated back to the city for development of Linda Vista, we have a federal payback on that land development. So to keep that in mind, that potentially is a liability on our books financially. So one thing to keep in mind is if we develop the vacant parcel under a P3, the good news is it's locally funded. We have a lot of opportunities there. It doesn't feel like concept A, what we desire and what we can accomplish in concept A really pushes us to make development on the vacant parcel. And one benefit to not developing the parcel, but selling it so that someone else can develop the parcel is that we're able to use that revenue, that local share, and essentially pay off that liability in that partial reboundary for the federal government. Not only that, but any sale of that vacant parcel also becomes local match. And again, if we go back to the dollar amounts Ann was talking about for phase 1 and phase 2 under concept A, it is quite significant. And so the local match that we could potentially gain out of selling that parcel is also just something we need to factor in. So I wanted to be sure you had all of that information as you tell us, yes, pursue. I am not trying to sway you from saying pursue and look at what can be done, but I want to be very cautious about how much more investment we spend in evaluating that with all of those facts presented clearly.
Thank you for that, Heather. So what you're saying is that, the purple parcel, the green parcel we can sell, and that would help leverage, those funds would be leveraged to see through this project.
Correct. And potentially could help us with that federal payback that we're going to owe at some point in the future or through this lot line revision that's been proposed. And we do think the lot line revision has good benefit to us in that it brings the lower portion of that vacant parcel in green below the dotted line into our existing parcel use. And we think there's good reason for keeping that, not just because Linda Vista is potentially road going through that parcel, but also that gives us a little more cushion on our property for maneuvers and turns that we need in that segment and sector.
We starter homes. Just kidding. I think, with my mountain line hat on, I think it makes sense to sell that parcel to the north and leverage those funds for sure for concept A, if I'm referring to concept A correctly. But I still would love for us to see if there was a way to sprinkle in a few starter homes wherever possible. And the land is the biggest issue when it comes to starter homes. Anyways, other directors, what are your thoughts about that part, the green parcel, and selling it versus keeping it, right?
And if I can be clear, I'm not asking for a decision on keeping or selling so much as I wanted you to have that information to say, yes, keep exploring, or no, bring back a different item for discussion so that you could give us clear action. So this item is not an action item. So you really can't take action to tell us to dispose of the property, but really looking for your interest in exploring it further before we bring that decision. Or let's not continue exploring that. Let's focus on concept A and what you have in the lot line revision, and please bring back for action consideration of disposal of the property. So that to me is kind of the split of direction that we're seeking today.
Okay, I like that. And I like that recommendation of exploring the concept A and disposal of that parcel to the north. Director Mayer.
Yeah, and thank you for the clarification on that. And I was a little confused about what we're looking for. But yeah, I'd agree with continue exploring concept A. Concept C just doesn't seem terribly viable to me. So let's continue looking at what we can do with concept A.
Thank you, Director. Director Sweet.
And I'm in agreement. Concept A seems to make most sense.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
I would concur with concept A.
There you go. And does that give you and Heather direction, or was it direction? I forget the term we're looking for. Yeah. Good.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, Heather, I can't see you on the video right now. So yes, it does. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let me get my agenda back open. Thank you, Anne and Heather, for that. So now we're down to agenda item number 10, which is our Mountain Line Go Airport update. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time. Jackie, who is our marketing and communication director, is going to lead this conversation.
Thank you, Chair Shimoni and members of the board. Given the time frame here, I'm going to be as brief as I can. So I'm giving you an update on some of the marketing related to Mountain Line Go, which is our micro transit program to the airport. I do want to recognize that Estella Hollander is our staff member that is really the project manager for this. I am here today to talk about the marketing side of it, but Estella has really done most of the heavy lifting on this, and she'll be giving you a broader overview, I believe, at our advance next month. So just a little, I think I'm not going to go into details about the micro transit, as I believe Estella has done a great job of that over the months with the board. So I won't delve into that. But so when we added the airport, so we originally started with just doing the micro transit in the Huntington corridor, and then added the airport, and it required a different kind of marketing. The Huntington corridor is primarily filled with a lot of our human service agencies. And so it was really direct outreach, working directly with these different human service agencies. But when it came to the airport, you're talking about all of Flagstaff and visitors to Flagstaff. So it was a much different way that we needed to go about it. Next slide, please. So our marketing agency worked closely with the Discover Flagstaff team. They've been, as you know, they have some great creative services people working with Discover Flagstaff. So they worked together to come up with this messaging. And we've really used we've used a mix of more traditional advertising. So you've probably seen that one on the bottom there. If you're 100 years old like me and get a newspaper delivered to your house, you maybe have seen it across the top of the paper every Sunday. Also online with the Daily Sun as well, doing KNAU, a lot of a pretty good mix of things, and also working with a company called Datify, which the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Visit Flagstaff, Discover Flagstaff, works with them, and it's an online marketing tool that is behavior based. So we all know that our cell phones know everything about us, and this is a company that takes advantage of the fact that your cell phone knows everything about you. So if you have traveled to the Flagstaff, if you live in Flagstaff and have been at the Flagstaff airport over the past certain amount of time, you would potentially be served up ads for this program. So really trying to target people who go to the airport or who have a certain behavior, like maybe you're Googling airport parking as you're looking to implement paid airport parking down the road here. So it has been partnering with Discover Flagstaff on this has been great. It's really introduced us to some new things. Next slide, please. We also worked with NALTRA, which is the Northern Arizona Lodging, Tourism, and Restaurant Association. We did this flyer for them, and it's for them to distribute to their members, so all of the hoteliers in town. So really getting it out into that tourism market as well. Next slide, please. And a huge thank you to the Economic Vitality team at Flagstaff for hanging this beautiful banner in the airport. And so when you fly into Flagstaff or out of Flagstaff, you will see this. We've learned through just talking to some of the riders, a lot of our riders are learning about the app and the service from workers at the airport, like someone at a customer service desk. So it really, a lot of the word of mouth has worked really well with this. And so thank you to them for putting that banner up. And then next slide, please. And so we did a video with, you'll see our lovely Gail Jackson. If you don't know her, she is the CEO of Econa. And we did a video with her. Please note that this is a version that talks about masks. I actually have a version that we did that does not talk about masks. Since masks went away yesterday, I haven't had a chance to change it out. So I'll let Rhonda play that.
When Econa CEO Gail Jackson travels for business or pleasure, she always flies Flagstaff first, and now she uses Mountain Line Go to get to the airport. Mountain Line Go is public transit on your schedule. It's on-demand and flexible transit service between anywhere in the Flagstaff city limits and Pulliam Airport, using Mountain Line's smaller vehicles. The vans don't run on a schedule or a set route like the regular buses. Instead, riders use an app to request a ride to or from the airport at a time that meets their needs.
I downloaded the Mountain Line Go app, and a few days before my flight, I booked my ride to the airport.
I can get picked up at my house, my office, or anywhere in Flagstaff. I select the airport as my destination, put in the time I need to arrive for my flight, and if a van is available, my trip is booked. On the way home, I do the same thing, and my car never leaves the garage.
Mountain Line Go is just $2 a ride, and passengers can pay through the app or with exact change when boarding. This is a shared ride service, so if other people are heading in the same direction at the same time, there might be others on your van. If you book your trip with the desired arrival time at the airport, you'll get there in plenty of time for your flight.
With Mountain Line Go, it's never been easier to fly Flagstaff first.
Mountain Line Go is a grant-funded pilot program that runs through June 2022. Per federal mandate, face masks are currently required on all public transit and at all facilities. For full details, visit mountainline.az.gov/go airport.
All right, thank you, Rhonda. Go to the next slide.
When Econa
listen to
CEO
Gail
Gail
again.
Jackson travels.
Thanks, Rhonda. Okay, so the video has been really well received. Huge thank you to Gail and her entire family for starring in that video. You can also see the chaos that is my cell phone, because we had to use my cell phone to film the actual phone part of it. So just a few results that we have thus far. So the Datify that I told you about, the online marketing that we're doing, seeing really good results so far, kind of above their industry standards, reaching a lot of people, which is great. The awareness is huge for us. So I won't walk through all those, just given our time. If you can go to the next slide. And then some of the performance measures on the app itself and the ridership. So, saw a huge boost in downloads of the app on the day that the Daily Sun did an article, which if you saw it, our very own Estella was pictured in that one. Bookings from app at 65%, that's huge. That means that those people are not calling our office and we're not having to manually book them. They're booking it themselves, which is great. And we're seeing the ridership tick up slowly, which is great. We did not want to be bombarded all at once. We are experiencing similar staffing issues to the rest of the country, the city, the state, the country. And so we certainly didn't want to be bombarded right away. And it's really the slow uptick, which has been great and then really well received. If you can go to the next slide. Just some comments that we've had on it. Really love seeing this one, people who got to the airport and it was snowing and there's no Ubers or Lyfts or rideshare services or taxis. And they, probably saw the sign or talked to someone at the airport and used the app and were able to get where they needed to go. So I think people are really enjoying it. And that is what I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jackie. Can you go back a few slides really quick? No, we're trying to hustle, but a couple more. There it is. Impressions, almost 1 million impressions. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Once again, this is like, it's very cool. I mean, the Discover Flagstaff, if you probably listen to their presentations at City Council, they're obviously trying to reach a much larger audience than we are. They're trying to reach people who are researching a vacation to another mountain destination, and we want to snag them and give them to Flagstaff. So it's a really cool tool, and we're excited to try and use it for some other marketing campaigns in the future related to just Mountain Line. Like, for instance, target parents who are waiting in a line to pick up or drop off their kids at a school. You don't need to do that. We can do that for you, kind of thing. So you can really geo-target where people are, which will be exciting.
Great. Director Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since we're talking about marketing, and I know that once the airport starts charging for parking up there, is there some type of plan for a coordinated effort to coincide, increase in marketing efforts with the upcoming pay for parking, or is there any thought to that?
Yes, it's a bit of a challenge given the timing, being that this pilot program goes away on June 30th. So, and I don't know exactly, I don't know the exact date that they're implementing the paid parking at the airport. I don't know if any of our city friends on the phone know that one. But it's certainly something, it's obviously makes perfect sense. But there's also sensitivity issues. We don't want to, the airport parking, paid parking is a good thing. We don't want to, we never want to dump on something like that, but like, paying for parking is stupid. You should do this instead. So we really want to be cautious of not, belittling another thing to make our thing look better. So, and the timing of it as well, but definitely we will be conscious of that if it is launching sometime where it gives us enough buffer to, we don't want to over market in the month of June and then people get frustrated because they can't book after June 30th.
Sure, that makes sense. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Paying for parking is stupid. You should ride the bus. Sorry, Barney. But people will still pay to park. Don't worry.
We think paid parking is great because it's part of, it's all part of transportation demand management. So we are a huge fan of it.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's a great point, Director Mayer. And we will be having a further conversation about this at our May joint meeting with the TAC to talk about how to make this a resilient ongoing program lasting past June 1st. So that conversation, directors, will be occurring next month. Anything else before we continue on? Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Keith, thank you. And Estella, thank you, of course. We are down to our agenda item number 11, which is the Art of the Downtown Connection Center with Deputy General Manager Kate Morley. The board may provide direction, but there is no recommendation from staff at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm going to turn it over to Jana Weldon, the city's Beautification Arts and Sciences Project Administrator, who has been working with us on the Downtown Connection Center art. We're very excited and thankful for the partnership with the city. FTA does not let us spend money on public art, and so having this is a real benefit to the Downtown Connection Center project. And with that, I'll turn it to Jana.
Thank you very much, Kate. It's been a wonderful partnership with Mountain Line working on this project. I'm not going to speak much because the artists are here to present their own ideas. And so you have a real treat. I just want to say that there has been robust outreach to stakeholders and community members for well over a year now, going into these ideas that you're going to see. And I am going to ask you to continue that. And afterwards, Rhonda is going to send you comment cards, and I ask you to return them to me. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Laura Haddad and Tom Drugan, a very exciting artist team that I've had the privilege of working with before. But they have projects all over the country. Sorry, we can't show them to you today. But without further ado, Tom and Laura.
Thank you, Jana. Hello, everyone. We're Haddad Drugan, based in Seattle, Washington. And Rhonda, if you could go to the next slide, please. As Jana mentioned, we've been working on this project for over a year. Last May, we came out to Flagstaff and did a lot of walking around the neighborhood, the South Side, meeting with the design team, meeting with the community on the site, and just doing our own research and investigations. wanted to just quickly share some of our inspirations for the artwork. So the history of the South Side, its future visions, and the diversity and cultural stories are really key to what we're doing. Next, please. And then just the context of the San Francisco peaks that are visible from the South Side, and then the mountain line identity that is present on the site currently are keying into our proposal. Next. And then we looked at some of the industry and cultural heroes of Flagstaff. So the logging history and the Lowell Observatory, the astronomical alignments are things that we're also pulling into the artwork. Next. So we began by taking a very broad look at the site and the opportunities for artwork. On the left, we have the phase one, which is the primary building. So here we're locating a glass facade artwork over the entry. We'll talk about that more in detail. And then we have also proposed for a local artist a crosswalk mural across Phoenix Avenue. And then in phase two, we are looking at doing rotating art frames for local artists to incorporate pieces that would change over time into the bus bays. And then on the corner of the civic space, a monumental sculpture, a gathering place. Tom will talk a little bit later about the potential locations for this. And then the fifth piece is interpretive panels on the Rio Bridge. That is kind of a separate but tangential project. So next, please, and we can just flip through these quickly. So these are some images showing the Route 66 bridge. The panels will go along the top of the railing and will be interpretive about stories of the site. Next. The Phoenix Avenue crosswalk will be kind of an entry into the future building site, and this will be thermoplastic that is adhered to the asphalt. Next. And then very quickly, the bus bay idea would be two-dimensional art. We just noticed this morning that we have the same picture in here twice, so apologize for that. But this will be something we collaborate with the architects to find a location for. Next. So the piece that I'll be talking about is the illuminated glass artwork. So we picked a location directly over the front doors due to its high visibility from the street, and it also is kind of a welcome portal, a welcome mat for visitors who come to the building. We will be backlighting this glass with LED floodlights that will be mounted to the ceiling of the interior space, and you'll see the color changing effects we're going for. But the imagery is an overlay of the three elements found in the Mountain Line logo: the lion, the pines, and the peaks. Next, please. So Tom and I have been doing a type of artwork we call illumination animation. And so the way this works is we layer together three discrete images. So here are the three logo elements, but in more, not the logo images, but inspired by those typologies. We overlay them in a grid to create an image where the colors blend together. So that's on the upper left. And next slide, please. So the daytime view is what you see on the upper left. You see all of the images blended, but then at night when we cast colored light from behind, it brings out the individual layers of the gridded image. So, so the red light, we see the lion, the green light, we see the trees, and blue light, we see the peaks and the trees, and then colors in between, we see both. So as the light color changes, there's this kind of animated quality. It almost looks like a movie or projections, and it is very magical. Next, please. So we studied a particular area, which is outlined here for reference, the tip of a tree. And next, Rhonda, please. We have been working with a fabricator, a glass fabricator, who made a sample for us of this area. But what we're doing is we'll turn the entire image into a circular gridded pattern that is inspired by the image of cut logs, but also a reference to the rings that are in the paving at the entrance. So our sample area was silk screened together in the 3 layers, and the next image shows how it turned out. We have some daytime views of the front of the glass. This is what you would see with the south sun hitting it during the daytime. And then what it would look like from inside the building. To the right of that, there's a translucent interlayer. And then on the bottom are images of the colored light casting through it and bringing out the different layers. And I think you can go to the next slide. And that's the end of the glass presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom to talk about the sculptural element called Southside Grove.
Yeah, so the other feature is a kind of immersive sculptural space that we're creating on the site. So our inspirations here obviously are the ponderosa pine and forest and lumber, also tying into the astronomical work at the Lowell Observatory. And then this all kind of keys into the Southside community, its history and its heroes. So it's kind of a two-sided effect. Next slide, please. So we have kind of the sense that you see a grove from the exterior, but really we're trying to create this immersive experience. It's made up of 6 trunk-like sculptures. 5 of them have branches, and one, the kind of the bigger one there is on the south side, and it creates some oculus effects at solar noon. Next slide. So obviously the inspiration of the ponderosa pine was big on this sculpture. So we're abstracting it and creating different features, and I'll get into some details in a minute. But the overall, it's more geometric and has this snowflake crystalline kind of form. And here on the lower left, you can see how you have that interior view as well as the exterior view. Next slide. So each of these sculptural pieces aligns to the winter and summer solstices at sunrise and sunset, as well as the north and south axis.
Next slide.
Next slide. So here the southernmost trunk-like sculpture has this feature with an oculus in it. So at solar noon during the equinoxes, light ring over on the image on the right, a dot of light will be focused onto the center of this timetable feature. Of course, other times of year at solar noon, the image will be elliptical and kind of move on the timetable. Next slide, please. On the lower part of the trunk, we're studying this bark texture, which we find really fascinating. And we think by using weathering steel and getting into etching and cutting into the metal, we'll create this really cool bark pattern. Next, please. And then on the ends of the branches, we have these needle-like assemblies that are almost like starlight clusters. And they'll be cast acrylic or polycarbonate that is transparent or translucent green. So in the sunlight, they'll glow. So you'll have this kind of beautiful sunlight effect on them as well. Next, please. And then in the center is kind of the main feature here of the timetable. So this is almost like if you know dendrochronology, where you cut the log and you can kind of read the climate history or the history into the dating of the log through the rings of the trees. So we're going to replicate this idea in black granite and then etch into it the history. Really, we're going to focus on the cultural history of the South Side, but also in some areas kind of expand to the broader Flagstaff history and Arizona history with this kind of concentric timeline etched into the piece. Next slide, please. So here again, an overview of the sculpture. I forgot to mention at the top are sort of polished stainless steel caps, so these will catch the sunlight as well.
Yeah, and Tom, I'm going to interrupt just for a second because I think you also need to emphasize that the tree sculptures are also kind of like, especially the southernmost one, which won't have kind of the bark is supposed to be somewhat representative of a telescope, correct? Or maybe a land
Yes, that's
scope.
right.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, I
Kind
forgot
of,
to
there's a
mention.
scope, yeah, there's a scoping element to the trunks.
Yep.
Yep.
Thanks, Jana, for reminding me that.
So I think we just have one last slide.
Yep.
Yeah, so here, the location, so given the dynamics of the site and the phasing of the site, we have a few locations, and we're going to be working with the design team coming up here for the different locations. Phase 1, we could put it in the plaza near the building, or build it over there and then move it over to phase 2 location, which is over at the entry, kind of the intersection of Mike's Pike there, which will be the new civic space. So those are our basic options.
So that is the end of our presentation, and we appreciate the opportunity to explain our ideas to you and look forward to your feedback.
Laura, Tom, and Jana, thank you so much. Especially Laura and Tom for your work on this. This is very exciting, and it's very beautiful, right? I can't wait. My only comment that I have, and I'll open up to the directors, is just if there was any way to integrate chimes or any kind of sound element, that would be so cool. But
that's a good idea.
But as is it's really great as it is too. I know we have a cost. But directors, any other comments or feedback? I think
Chairman Shimoni, I would just want to echo what you shared as well. It's really amazing, and I can't wait as well. It's really cool. So, but your idea about some kind of sound, a chime, is it piques my interest as well. So, support that.
Great.
Yeah, we're all for multi-sensory art experiences. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, that's a great suggestion. Thanks.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and don't forget to write all of this down on your comment cards that you're going to receive. Please, please, please. And send them to Rhonda, and she can send them on to me.
Very good. Very good. Well, I know we're on a time crunch, but thank you both again for being with us in your presentation today and your work on this. This is very exciting, and I can't wait for this to come to fruition.
Oh, great.
Thank you all so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful day. Okay, we are down to our progress reports. I'm going to pass the mic over to Heather.
Great. Thank you for a fabulous meeting so far. And appreciate everyone trying to work with us on our time crunch to get this e-session squeezed in. I'm just going to take about 5 minutes and go over a couple of items that are not in the current events. If you have feedback on any of the other progress reports, please let us know. And similarly, I hope you've had an opportunity to read the current events, but I like to highlight our anniversaries. So this month we did have 12 anniversaries representing 84 years of experience across those 12 team members. Some of the staff, Busy is our transit planner, and she's celebrating 3 years. Busy leads many of our crucial plans that guide our future, and we appreciate the expertise that she's bringing. Jackie is our marketing and communications director. She is celebrating 10 years with Mountain Line, and of course, her work is key to both our customer relations and ensuring that our community knows what Mountain Line is and what we do. Most of our team members you're probably not familiar with, so I'll just take a quick few moments. David Doss, Ruben De La Ruz, and Matthew Kemmons are all transit operators celebrating their first year with Mountain Line. They jumped in a very challenging time and have not just mastered the technical skills needed to operate our vehicles, but they provide excellent customer service during their shifts. Jaime Guerrero is celebrating 15 years. He is regularly recognized by peers and our customers for providing excellent service. He works both on the paratransit and the bus side of our organization. Herman Ramirez is a dependable and professional team member, mostly on our bus side, celebrating 7 years. Marcus Morris started out as a transit bus operator with our system, was promoted quickly into an operations supervisor position, and he just celebrated his 7th anniversary. Blake Williams similarly started as a transit operator, moved into operations supervisor. Both of these members, I'm sorry, Blake is celebrating his 3rd anniversary. And both of these team members are key to supporting our drivers and our operations in the field. Len Hill is our HR specialist celebrating 12 years. Len started out as a customer service representative at our front desk and moved into our HR division roughly 7 to 8 years ago. And she supports all of our recruitment efforts as well as serves as our benefits expert for all of our employees. Jacob Molfo is celebrating his 1st anniversary with Mountain Line. He actually is a part of the Montoya Fellowship Program that we share with MetroPlan. So we share Jacob across the 2 division. He is an NAU student and will be graduating in May. We'll be sorry to see him go, but very appreciative of the work that he has brought. And lastly, I'll highlight Bernice Tooley. Bernice was actually here when I started. She has been with our agency 23 years. She was part of the implementation of Mountain Line, the introduction of Mountain Line, and she served in multiple roles over the years. Most staff regularly rely on her and recognize her for the amount of care she shows in supporting our team members. I'm hoping in the future that we'll be able to invite some of these team members in so that you can actually meet and see them at our future meetings. But very briefly, those are the anniversaries that we celebrated in March. And I think I'm probably at time with those things. So I do have a couple other announcements that I will send out by email just so that you have them.
And Heather, if you want to take another minute, you're welcome to.
Okay, I'll share a couple other bits of good news. The mask mandate was allowed to expire. So we are all mask free in our building, in our bus stops, and in our shelters. But I want to emphasize that we are encouraging staff to mask to their comfort levels. We do have several staff members that still have a preference for the wearing of masks, and we are encouraging all staff to respect that preference and have provided signs so that when we're meeting with those individuals, we know who would prefer to have masks worn while meeting with them. Most of our riders seem to have left the mask behind delightfully, but we are seeing about a third to maybe 50% of riders still masking while on the bus. And of course, we will continue to support what people are most comfortable with. And lastly, I'll share the May meeting. We are probably going to recommend that it be virtual. So we've heard the desire that we offer these meetings in hybrid format, and we want to meet that need for various reasons. Unfortunately, it is a joint meeting. So all of our board members, all of our alternates, our transit advisory committee members, and all of their alternates, which require us to use our very large training room. And the audio in that room is not friendly to a hybrid environment. So probably we will have the May joint meeting 100% virtual, and then look forward to doing hybrid meetings in our 2 smaller group sessions starting in June. And then our goal is to continue offering our meetings in a hybrid format as we move into the future, but welcoming the public back into those meetings in June as attendees.
Very good. Thank you. And time, well done. And Heather and Jackie, moving forward, I did take a screenshot of the work anniversaries and I just posted it to social media.
Oh, thank you.
Might be another cool way to feature these individuals. But congratulations to everyone who's been serving the community through Mountain Line and all the work anniversaries. So we're down to our executive session and we're kind of pushing up against the clock, but do we need a motion to go into executive session now? We do. Okay, so is there a motion?
I'll move to go into executive session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Mayor and a second by Director Sweet. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries unanimously. So are we going to get moved over?
Yes, we will be moved, I think, into separate session.
Scott, welcome.
It may just take us a second to get moved over. So he can share the slide.
Okay, have we been moved over? Is this the new room or? Can't tell.
Just a minute, still.
One more moment, it sounds like. You should see a pop-up that says you're being invited to to a separate room. There we go.
So I think the training room, isn't the training room?
If you were there originally.
But I can't hear anything. If I turn my sound on, but then what will it do to this? Sorry.
Hey, Rhonda.
I'm here now, I think.
Rhonda, this is Sam. Can you hear me?
Sam, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Now we're good. You just didn't have the training room in.
I think I was supposed to be in the executive session.
Okay, here we are. All right, so with that, we are at the end of our agenda. Thank you all, staff, leadership, directors, for your time and energy today. We had a really productive meeting, covered a lot of ground. And with that, we are adjourned. Be safe out there, take care, and have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.
Bye all.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.